Hello. This week on Got Clutter, Get Organized, the conversation, I am so excited because if you are a parent, if you're a caregiver, even if you are just overwhelmed by everything that you have to do in life, you need to hear this conversation. You probably need to share it with a friend and maybe with a family member as well, because I get to talk to Florence Ann Romano, and she's going to be here talking about build your village and just how, not only how we need to build our village, but also how we need to see ourselves contributing to our family and friends in their village as well. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Got Clutter, Get Organized, the conversation. I am so excited because I have an author here and this is her book. It's called Build Your Village. And I just want to make sure it says a guide to finding joy and community in every stage of life. I really enjoyed this book. I can't wait to get to the conversation just about the book, but about other things as well. So of course, thank you so much for joining me, Florence Ann Romano.
Thank you. Just as we were talking before this, I have to tell your listeners, we were already having the best time just chatting like girlfriends, and I loved it. And I am just so honored that you, Janet, read this book and that it hit your heart. That's all I could hope for. So thanks for having me today for this, hopefully what will be a very important conversation.
And I really believe so too. So I know you are known as a personal growth strategist, but
Yeah.
also what made you decide to write this book, which I think is like a must have for every bookshelf.
Well, listen, like I said to you before, I want to put you in my pocket, take you around with me everywhere. I couldn't ask for a better cheerleader, which is one of the archetypes in the book, by the way, is the cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
Janet is obviously the epitome of that. Thank you. And what really led me to it, let me back up a little bit in my life, kind of the beginning part of my journey. I was a nanny actually for 15 years in my life back in the day. And I learned so much about the family dynamic, just personalities, what goes on in the home. And it really rocked me to the point where I was like, wait, man, I think we should be paying more attention to what goes on across the country, across the globe in people's homes and how they're using their support systems. And so after I retired from being a nanny and I went on to other things in my life, fast forward to COVID. And during COVID, I was online like everybody else, seeing in all of these chat rooms or social media, all these people bemoaning the fact, where is this village that everyone keeps talking about? This, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village. It takes a village. And I said to myself, well, yeah, it does take a village to raise a child, but what if we cut that in half? It takes a village, period. Doesn't everyone deserve a village? Doesn't everyone deserve it despite how they design their lives, whether or not they have children? Don't they deserve people and support? So during COVID, I looked around, and on a global scale, we all knew what it felt like, Janet, to lose our support systems.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very rare, to be able to say we know on a global level what everyone is kind of feeling like. So I thought to myself, let's answer that question. Where's the village? Because people would joke and say, is there a phone number to call? Are there these people just show up at your front door with a casserole ready to help you raise your children and, manage your life? And so I wanted to create archetypes, which I did in my book, 6 archetypes that you identify with. And you look at these 6 archetypes and you think to yourself, okay, who do I need of these 6 in my life? And also, who am I of these 6 in other people's lives? Because I really believe that this process has to do with showing up for others, with the reciprocal nature of human nature. And that's really the foundation and bedrock of friendship. And so that's what led me to write Build Your Village. And I'm hoping it is answering that question for people about how do I build community?
And I think that's important. I mean, because I did look at all of the different archetypes and I realized of course, I'm the organizer. But then
I can already tell. I can already tell. But I think you wear other hats too, Janet. I
and
do.
you're right. And you're right because I realize I can be part of the healer. Like if
Mm-hmm.
somebody's going through something, I immediately like jump in, hey, are you okay?
Yep.
Or, sometimes it gets scepter. But
Mm-hmm.
also I realize one of the things that my best friend always says, she's like, I'm not organized. I'm not organized. But you ask her to put on a party, Florence Ann, and my goodness, you've got mints on the table. Everything is
It's
color
on the
coordinated. Oh
table.
yeah, because I had like a little barbecue thing. I was living in an apartment and I was like stressing out.
Yeah.
But she came and it was like, whew, it was like, okay, I'm gonna place mats here, mats there, this, that, and the other. And then another friend was like, I need to hire her to come to my
Yeah,
house.
right,
So
exactly. Right.
you
Everyone has
do,
their talents. Everyone has
yeah,
their
and everyone
strengths and
has their
their talents.
talent. And like you said, during that COVID period, I realized my village
Mm-hmm.
because I was, I'm single, I don't have children.
Mm-hmm.
And then during that time, I lost somebody who I had been dating for 5 years. He passed away suddenly.
Oh my
So my
goodness.
best friend, because she was working in the hospital, it wasn't like she could come over here because
Right.
she was,
Right.
and it was like I saw people. A friend would like, "Hey, I'm in your neighborhood. Are you home? I'm going to drop some food off." People would call and things like that. So yes, this is what, and I told Florence Ann that. So this is like a book that I think we all need just to discover how we contribute to a village, but also, if you are looking for a village. So with that said, Florence Ann, and you were talking about how you were a nanny. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that's like kind of reoccurring, and you may know this, is as we get into that back to school season
Yeah.
between the parents and the kids, everybody's like overwhelmed,
Right.
flustered, and it's like, okay, this is something you go through every year. So
Right.
how can what are some of the reasons? Like, why is everybody feeling just so overwhelmed? Number one.
Well, I laugh because the Surgeon General came out with a warning not too long ago that said that overwhelm is one of the main stressors for parents today, for adults today. And I was laughing to myself reading it. I'll just bring out my phone as a prop. I'm scrolling reading this, and I'm laughing to myself going, any parent that is reading that right now is laughing out loud, being like, hey, Surgeon General, don't tell me something I don't already know. You think I don't
Mm-hmm.
know I'm stressed out? You think I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that I'm overwhelmed by my life? And so, that kind of, gave me pause and gave me reason to, do some really hard chuckling. But I really want parents to take a look at their summer, first of all, before they get into the back to school, because I think that does set the cadence for what's going to happen when school hits. Because I just had a friend of mine, conversation with a friend of mine. We were trying to get together, a group of us. And she said to me, Florence Ann, I have to be honest with you. There is no way. We live in the suburbs. The city is about 30 minutes away. And she said, I just don't think I can make a city afternoon work right now this summer. Can I ask very, very kindly that we do something locally, because I want to be together with my girlfriends, and we put this on the calendar for like the third week in September once the kids are back cranking in school. And I bring up this story just because it's a great illustration of A, what the parents are feeling this summer, and they always do, and B, a friend who felt comfortable enough to call me and say, I need to say no to something. And that's going to be the next thing that I say is I talk about this being a summer of intention, that people say no, that they look at their cobweb of a calendar and say, I am going to back out of plans. I am going to stand up for my family and say, we're not going to be able to make that. Or I am going to give them Chick-fil-A for dinner tonight instead of having to compete with everyone else on Instagram who's making these beautiful gourmet meals for their family and making everything look perfect. And I'm failing. And no, we're going to go to Chick-fil-A and the kids are going to love it. And it's going to help me be able to breathe a little easier that day. So, I hate when people talk about these big, grandiose ideas and do these 27 steps. And if you do these 27 steps, maybe in about 5 months, you'll feel better. And if you read this book, maybe in about a year, you'll start to see some progress. No, it's time to actually find the ways that are snackable ways, bite-sized ways to make a dent in your life. And you will find that the small things do lead to big results.
And I'm glad you said that because recently I met with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
We decided, okay, we're going to meet at this location because it was almost central.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked a couple blocks over, had a nice little lunch, the two of us, ate outside, and then we came back home. And it really meant a lot for both of us because one, we had said we were going to do this for a long time. But like you said, it's like little things. So sometimes people think, okay, we got to have this long list. Okay, we got to do this. And then once
Right.
we get finished this event, then we got to figure out where we're going to eat. And
Right.
sometimes it's just getting together or even
Right.
sometimes just having a conversation because I have a group of friends we meet every Thursday via Zoom.
Oh, that's adorable. I love that.
Because we're different
Wonderful.
time zones, different
Right.
cities. We've been doing it since COVID and we just kept it up. And it's our way of just kind of checking in. So I
Yeah.
like that. Snack size things. I like that. So I guess my next question is like, what are some things that maybe you already shared a couple of snacks on, but are there any more things in regards to like the back to school, the
Mhm.
back to work, summer's over
Yeah.
without feeling like, oh my goodness, okay, now I'm jumping back in to everything.
Mhm.
And you did say start the summer, and I like that.
Yeah. And
Start the summer, not just, okay,
yeah.
now we're in August, we got to get all of this. So,
Right. And back to school is always hard. I mean, every year it happens and you're like, I don't know why this is a surprise to me every year, but it is the way. It's just, some things just never will change. But what I do think needs to change, and this is going to be a part of the answer to your question, is asking for help. And this seems to be very debilitating for people. And I'll tell you why it is. And this is at least my opinion of why I think it is, especially for parents. You don't want to ask for help because I will go back to social media for a second. As much as I love social media, as I love technology, I use it, but it can be a cesspool and it can be a place where it does deplete you and where it also makes you feel like a failure because you're seeing everyone's shining moments and thinking to yourself that you're not measuring up. And so I think we go to bed at night sometimes with that heaviness and we don't understand where that heaviness is coming from. And we need to look at the content that we are digesting, ingesting, and that plays a big role in why it makes our hearts heavy, our minds heavy. But going back to the idea of asking for help, why people don't want to do that in addition to what they're measuring themselves against on social media is I do believe that if you ask for help, you think that then you have an outstanding debt to somebody and you
mm,
don't know when you're going to be able to pay that back. And you don't want that elephant on your back. You don't want that debt hanging out there. And I'll give you an example of that. You are down with the flu, you are sick, whatever it might be, and you call a friend and say, I really could use your help with carpool. I could use your help with the extracurriculars today. There's dance, there's basketball, there's this. Could you please? And it's a friend of yours that has kids going to the same places because they're in those same camps or whatever it might be. And you ask for that. Then you wonder to yourself, okay, am I even a good mom? You start to go down that rabbit hole of I can't show up. Other moms probably are, barfing into a plastic bag while they're taking their kids. And here I am not able to get into the car. Or maybe you're pregnant and maybe you have terrible morning sickness that doesn't just happen in the morning, it happens all day long. And you need help there. Maybe you're postpartum and you're really struggling. And getting in the car and taking your kids somewhere is just going to push you over the edge. So let's look at all these real life, realistic situations where asking for help is survival. It is necessary. It is necessary as hydration, but we don't do it because we're worried about having to repay that. And that's where I think we get ourselves into trouble. That's where we become disconnected and isolated.
mm. And when you were saying that, I thought about when I had to, it wasn't that I asked for help, but I had to have a hysterectomy and I
Mm,
was terrified
mm-hmm.
because my best friend had one
Mm-hmm.
and I saw how everyone had to kind of, she had at that time, they were like junior high, high school children, husband, mother in law. So she had that support. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, I don't know if I could do that. Who's going
Mm.
to? So I'll never forget Florence Ann. I called her up and she's like, okay, so how did the appointment go? I said, well, he told me my only option is surgery. She's like, okay. She's like, I already figured it out. I'm gonna just take a week off and I'll just make sure I take care of you. And I was like, what?
Oh my gosh, I could cry.
I
That's
was like,
beautiful.
and I just love the way it was like a whole coordination because so she was staying with me. Of course, the kids are still in school. So then her mother-in-law moved in the house, made sure they got taken care of. Her husband thought, oh, they call me Jay. Oh, I thought you were going to bring Jay here so we could take care of him. And because they live in another state, she was like, no, we can't we can't travel across,
Right. Not going to work for Jay. No, yeah, we're not good. Yeah, got to
And it
keep
was
her
just
home.
like really like, wow. And then it continued because then I guess maybe for about a 6 week period, I didn't even have to cook food because friends who were married, children, etc., they made a little extra. They would put something in a little food storage container, label it, and then I would always call them my food fairies because they would
Oh,
come by and then I would look in the freezer and there would be food. So, you
oh
know,
my goodness. Janet,
it's
you. have an incredible
I do.
village.
I do.
You really do.
When I read this book, I was like, oh wow. Oh
Wow.
wow. Wow. I was
Wow.
like, yes, yes, yes. And I said, that's why. And then I started thinking, I said, people who, like we were talking, how they feel like, I don't have friends and I don't have this and I don't have that. I said, if they really bought the book with a highlighter
It
and
is
just
supposed
really,
to be like a workbook. It is. It's
yeah,
true. I like
because
that. Yeah.
for example, in the chapter about the organizer,
Hmm.
you have gut check and then you have action steps. One of the gut checks is, do you feel you can take on too many projects? And
Hmm.
sometimes yes, we can,
Hmm.
because we think we can do it all. And then
Right.
one of the action steps, which I love, which is create a birthday calendar so you don't have to rely on Facebook to
Yeah.
remind you. And I said, oh my goodness, Florence Ann is looking over my shoulder.
I'm just telling you what works for me because I mean, all these kids, by the way, because I'm single as well and not married, Janet. So, and I don't have, kids, and I'm Aunt Lo. That's my nickname. They call you Jay. They call me Aunt Lo. And so, all these kids and their birthdays and all these different things. I'm like, how do I keep this straight? I'm like, my godson. I have two godsons. I have a goddaughter. This or that. And then I'm like, it's a cobweb. And if Facebook doesn't remind me, I don't know. I mean, I even missed one of my best friend's birthdays one time because I was like unsure of the date. I wake up and I'm like, it's Tuesday. No, ma'am, it's Thursday. So you go all day. Do people even still write checks? I still write the wrong dates on my checks all
Oh
the
yeah,
time.
sometimes I do like this because I have a calendar right there, so I can like,
I have to look at my phone all the time. Like, tell me what day it is. Tell me what
yeah,
time it is.
yeah.
But but those are the things that are, again, small, snackable things that do help us survive the craziness of life. I will tell you something else that I do, and I do talk about it in the book. Whenever I want to check up on someone, I talk about this as well. Two different things. I have a text, my text threads. I delete a lot of messages, but I also keep certain messages. And oftentimes I keep those messages because as at night or, when I'm in the car or something in traffic, and, that's a terrible thing to say, but if I'm at the standstill in traffic and being very, very safe,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
looking through my text and it reminds me, oh, check up on this person. There's a reason I kept that text message to remind me. And then I go to my phone, like if I'm talking to someone on the phone and they said, oh yeah, I have, my cataract surgery in a couple weeks. I'm like, oh yeah, what day? And they tell me. Then I go to my phone, takes me 5 seconds, put the cataract surgery in my phone. And then the night before, text them, hey, thinking of you, praying for you. Let me know how it goes. So I remind myself to check in on people. This is not like a superpower. I want people to understand that this is not, I just have this amazing memory, like
Mm-hmm.
cataloging all these things. I have to help myself be able to help other people. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a system that I use in order to do it. So don't feel bad about that if you have to put reminders in your phones about these things. We remind ourselves about everything. So why shouldn't we be doing it regarding friendship and regarding care?
And you're right. And also, one of the things you mentioned is about sometimes asking for help. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that same friend when it was time for my goddaughter to go on her prom. Of course, I stayed because I wanted to just kind of be there. But
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much she was allowing me to be a part of it
Yeah.
because, I went to her, so she got her nails done and her little toes done, her pedicure, manicure.
Yeah.
And then I went with her when she got her makeup done. And then even when she got dressed, because my friend loves the party thing. So while she's downstairs doing her thing,
Yeah.
she allowed me to be upstairs and just kind of help her get dressed and
Yeah.
everything. And I
Oh,
was like, see, that really takes, because sometimes people want to do everything. She
right.
knew she couldn't do everything. So
Right.
she did what she wanted to do, but she trusted me to actually do that. So,
But she
mm,
also knew that that moment with your goddaughter was going to be important for you.
oh, it
And
was.
she gave you, and what a blessing that you have a friend that is not competitive with you in that way, where she wants to invite you in to be able to say, I want you to make your memories too. I want you to be a part of this. And it's also a testament to you, Janet, and how much you mean to these people in your life, that they want you there for these milestone moments. And there's so much there to unpack in terms of showing up for each other as friends. I always talk about that. And and making room for that in your life. And this going back to your original question of asking for help, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you a failure. And if you are going to live your life thinking that it's tit for tat or you have outstanding debts, then you are going to live a very lonely life, because we are meant for people. We are here to live a life in service of others. The caveat to that is, if you're in friendships, though, that are one sided, and it's always you giving and you're the doormat and you're always the one calling, you're always the one texting, then maybe this is time to evaluate whether you need to fire people from your village. And I know that's a strange thing to say, but not every relationship is a forever relationship. And people do grow and people do change. And you have to constantly do that evaluation in your life of whether or not you are aligned with the right type of people.
And you're right. You're so right. And I wanted to just mention, I'm now seeing, because of my relationship with my friend, how now my goddaughter is seeing that. She
Oh, I
loved,
love
she loved,
that.
she loves hanging out with us. Which, I mean, now she's in her
Why not? Look
20s,
how cool. I mean,
but
seriously, yeah.
yeah,
Why
but
not?
but it's just like, so now we're teaching her how she can, because now I see her. I was
Mhm.
mentioning, I says, yeah, I'm thinking about moving. She's like, well, let me know because I want to be there. And I was
Yeah.
like,
But
well,
see, that is everything right there,
yeah,
Janet.
it is.
When showing up for people, and I always think about that in my own life too. And I didn't learn these things on my own. And it's
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. I'm sure, Janet, you look at your friends and family and you think of,
Mm-hmm.
I always think of ourselves, and I talk about this in the book too, that we're a mosaic inside of us, and we have these little pieces of others that we take with us. And even, and this is, I guess, a little bit of a tangent, but there is gonna be a through line to it. So my great grandmother, I'm Italian, so my great grandmother, on my mom's side of the family, I never knew her. She died when my mom was 15 years old, but she was an immigrant from Italy, came here, started a business, did all that, like truly the American dream. But my nanny has always been an inspiration to me. I've always been enchanted by her, because my nana, whom I'm named after, that's why my name is so old fashioned, she would talk about her mother constantly. And all she would say was, she took care of everyone. She took care of everyone. And I would want to hear story after story about how she did that, how she showed up for her Italian community in Chicago all these years ago. And I was inspired by her. And so to think that this woman, who I never knew, played an enormous role in my life regarding shaping my heart, shaping my perspective about what it means to be part of a community and how you help one another. There's a video of her being interviewed by a local station at one point, and they asked her, why do you do what you do for people? And she said in her broken English, she said, I have to do it because I don't think I could sleep at night. If I saw someone who didn't have a piece of bread, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I do the best I can. And I watch that on a loop so often. And so,
Mm-hmm.
sorry to go on a tangent, but just I want to say that because you brought up a beautiful thing about your goddaughter who's watching. Children are watching, and our
Mm-hmm.
friends are watching, even our peers are watching, and you don't know the ripple effect you're going to have on future generations. And people do absorb it, and people do pay attention to it. So it is important that at all times in our life we are thinking about the role that we play.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are. Well, I wanted to ask you, how do you stay organized, but you've already mentioned just a few things. But is
Yeah.
it one thing that you do, that always helps you stay organized?
Oh gosh, I mean, the calendar is a big deal,
Okay.
but I will say that being very graceful about all of this is a big piece of it too. Organization is wonderful, and yes, I keep a calendar. I write things down. I make sure I remind myself of these things, but I also pay attention to capacity. And I know that I sometimes, and I think Janet, you're probably sometimes someone too who just stretches themselves beyond. And there's this line, right? You're on a plane, you put your oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help other people. And sometimes part of my organization is self care. Part of that is saying I need to disconnect. I am an extroverted introvert. In order for me to recharge, I need to be alone. And so I actually do schedule time to not do anything at all.
Oh, yes. I love Florence Ann. I love my do nothing days.
Yeah. Stay in your pajamas, binge Netflix, do whatever. Don't
Yep.
answer those calls,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, but you got to do it. You got to do it.
Yes, yes. This has been a wonderful conversation. So, how can people connect with you?
Oh,
Let me and get a copy of
thank
your
you.
books.
You've
I
been
have my
so
copy.
generous.
I have
So
my copy.
kind. Thank you, Jen.
I'm
You put
telling
a
you, people, you get a copy, get a highlighter too. Get a new highlighter.
Well, thank you. And you, again, it is supposed to be like a workbook. It's a place you can come back to, evergreen in nature. Anytime you're in a transition in your life, you can go back to this book and think of it as an anchor. You could go to my website, florenceann.com, and get in touch with me on social media, Florence Ann Romano. I answer every DM. You can think of me as your virtual village. And on my website also as well, you can take your free assessment and find out what type of village you currently have and if you need to make any adjustments to it. And I personally will reach out to you and talk through it.
And of course, those watching and listening know I will have all of Florence Ann's links to social media, her website on the show page notes. And just ending, this is a great book for somebody maybe entering college because, that's a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
different area. Maybe they've just graduated college, birthdays, you name it. This is a good book. This is even probably a good book for just people probably just getting married because, those are combined villages.
That is, and even the aging population, your life
Yeah,
changes a lot when you're an empty nester and all that
yeah,
too. So, I hope to,
yeah.
like I said, from 18 to 80, I hope it can be helpful. Thank you, Janet. You have been so joyful. What
Thank
a fun time with you. And thank you for your kindness.
Thank you.